about this list of the 25 best NFL players since 2000. And then in like 10 minutes, Jurko's going to help our new young producer.
A young producer just started with us.
Yes. And because Matt asked a question, and as Jurko was about to answer in the break, Bleck and Abdallah alertly said, "Stop! Don't say anything." Because it's too good. I was saving for the air. I said, close the door, close the door. He's going to want to talk. Close the door, close the door, close the door. So
All right, give me your thrilling top 25 list now.
Jurko's got
and you believe
some,
a bear has been omitted.
I believe a bear has been
top
omitted.
25 list of the 2000s.
We're seeing this because it's 25 years now. It's 25 seasons that we're in, right, Jurk?
Yes.
And
25 NFL seasons.
Yeah.
Including the 2000, yes.
Yeah, so they're doing like the whole, we're in 2024. What's the best? Who are the best since the century changed? And number one on the list, I don't think is much of a stretch. And I think it's pretty darn obvious. It is Tom Brady.
Yes.
These are the best football players.
Best football players. Brady's
Mahomes,
number one.
2.
Okay, limited body of work, but yes, he's won some Super Bowls, yes.
He's already won
3?
3.
6, been to 4?
He's been to 4, and he's won 3.
Yeah, all right.
I mean,
go ahead.
Aaron Donald, number 3.
Like that.
I do too.
111 sacks in 10 years. 11.1 a year. That's pretty efficient.
I can't argue with any of those top 3. I think that's it. I think that's the list. Those are the 3 best football players.
It's a good list.
Yeah. 4, Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Still pretty good.
Yeah.
5, Randy Moss. 6, Calvin Johnson. Maybe nitpick here a little bit. Calvin was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, short term,
He was awesome.
Yeah, he was very productive.
J.J. Watt, 7.
Defensive Player of the Year, 3 years.
I believe he was, Jurk.
Okay.
Ray Lewis, 8.
Ray Lewis started when? 96, ended when?
I'll give it to you. Hold on.
Yeah. How
Ray
much
played
of
a
the
long-ass time.
How many of the odds did he have?
He had a lot. He did. I mean, don't forget, he played, I want to say, to about 2015. He played till 2012, Jurk. So it was a lot. It was 96 to 2012. So it was still a lot of seasons. That's 13 seasons,
yeah,
right?
it's the crux of his career is in the 2000s.
He was a Defensive Player of the Year twice in the 2000s.
All but 4. All but 4.
Ray Lewis, 8. 9, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
10, Darrelle Revis.
Yep.
And then I'll just kind of go through these quickly here. Ed Reed, Charles Woodson, 12. Gronk, 13. Kelsey, 14. Breeze, 15. Palomalu, 16. Favre, 17. Favre did have some very prolific years in the early 2000s.
Sure.
Adrian Peterson, 18. Michael Strahan, 19. LaDainian Tomlinson, 20. Marshall Faulk, 21. Warren Sapp, 22. Joe Thomas getting the love he probably deserves at 23. Tony Gonzalez, 24. Derek Brooks is 25.
So your complaint is there's no Brian Urlacher.
Brian Urlacher's not on the list.
This list is awful. Without Brian Urlacher, this list is awful. You could stop at it. It's just awful. It's an awful list. It's a dumb list.
Do you want a few things that will support your statements?
Please do. Go ahead.
In the 2000s, Brian Urlacher was an All-Pro 4 times. He was a Rookie of the Year on defense. He was a Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, he made the Hall of Fame. From 2000 to 2012, Brian Urlacher's career, I'm going to give you right now, Jurko, the defensive players that accumulated the most approximate value according to Pro Football Reference. Are you ready?
Yes.
Ray Lewis, number 1 over that time span. We just talked about him, 174. Number 2, Brian Urlacher, 152. If you expand that list to encompass the entire century, a lot of the, Brian Urlacher only played in half of it. He's still 7th on the list.
Yes.
Some of this is, I don't want to say lifetime achievement. These players are all great, but you obviously accumulate approximate value as you play. Okay.
Yes.
So that is important to note. Number 1 on that list for this century, might surprise you, might not. Julius Peppers has the most approximate value on defense according to Pro Football Reference this century. I'll give you the top 10 real quick. Julius Peppers, Ray Lewis, Bobby Wagner, Terrell Suggs, Calais Campbell, Aaron Donald, Brian Urlacher, Champ Bailey, Cam Jordan, and Justin Smith. That's the list. The Bears defense ranked inside the top 5 in points allowed 5 times during Brian Urlacher's career. It was inside the top 5 in yards allowed another 4 times. And he was the best, most dominant player on that defense every single season. So to support Jurko's point, come on, what kind of a list are you really doing? That's kind of all you need.
Yeah.
biased or not,
Yeah.
because we're Chicagoans.
It's a bad
to
list.
have a list
But
of the
it's a bad
25
list.
best players
It's a bad list.
and not have Brian Urlacher on it is kind of crazy.
ESPN does this exercise in stupidity. Some call it futility. I call it an exercise in stupidity. They sit around the campus at Bristol, and they just come up with stupid thoughts and say, let's do this. And then they have whatever biases they have against certain individuals that are out there.
I don't know what the bias would be against him. I mean, I get the...
You don't know what the bias would be against him.
Against Brian Urlacher? Oh, because he's... That's kind of a silly... I was going to say...
I agree with you. It is silly to have that bias.
I
agree with you wholeheartedly. You judge people on what they did on the
pretty
football
stupid.
field.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid.
You agree with me then?
The bias I thought was on the other big snub. To me, do you know who's another pretty big snub? You know a name you didn't hear on that list? And I think maybe there's a bias here.
Was he the number one guy?
No, a guy that's not on the list.
Okay. Well, I can't remember
Terrell
all
Owens.
25. Oh, yeah.
I mean, probably hard to make that list without Terrell Owens.
Yeah, because he's a jerk.
Yes.
Because he was a jerk to the press.
Yes.
Yes. Terrell Owens is your third best wide receiver that's ever played.
Probably.
Yeah, it goes Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, and there's no gray area.
So I looked up some numbers on Owens.
Yeah.
2000 to 2010. He was tied with Moss for the second most total touchdowns over that span, Yerk. 125. The only guy who had more in that span was LaDainian Tomlinson.
Right.
He's on the list. And he was number one in the NFL in receiving yards per game with 80.4 over that span. You can't leave Terrell Owens off that list. You can't leave Brian Urlacher off that list. They were too good.
And 11 of his years were also played in the 2000s.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, 11 seasons. Urlacher played 13 seasons.
Four were not. And may I offer that his best productive seasons were those in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to argue. 15,900 total yards for him. 153 touchdowns for him.
Yeah, and I'm with you on your list. The list of the three best receivers is Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Terrell Owens.
That's it. That's your
list. That's the list.
Your list doesn't continue on into Larry Fitzgerald. You know, Larry's not coming up as a fourth place finisher. You've got a podium, and that podium is 1, 2, 3. Those guys collect their hardware. They pop the champagne. They have a good time. And then wherever Larry's at and wherever anybody else wants to be at, you guys are a distance away. Sorry, you're not there.
I agree with you.
I don't want to be mean, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. So I know these lists can be tough to compile because there's a certain number you have to get to. And it's a big body of work now because it's a lot of seasons and there have been a lot of great players. But I think those were two huge omissions from this list. Who do you take off? Well, start to get after it, start to maybe nitpick a little, but
how many offensive linemen are on that list?
only one, I think. Joe Thomas is the only one on the list, I think. Yeah.
And he never played in the playoff game.
Poor Joe Thomas. Did he get to play in 1 year? 07?
I don't remember.
No, did he not play in a single playoff game? The poor guy.
Did he get there after?
Didn't they have 1 year? Remember the year they had Derek Anderson who popped that good season?
Yeah, I remember.
But was that before Joe Thomas got there?
That's what I'm thinking.
You might be right, Yerk.
Never played in a playoff game.
Oh, my God. It's a shame. He got there in 07. So what was that, 06? Oh, no, that was 02. That's how long ago that was.
Yeah, it's 3 years after I was there, Carm.
Holy cow.
And Tony Gonzalez's career, 14 years into 2000s.
That's a shame.
His last 1,000-yard year was 2008 with Kansas City. He went to Atlanta, was just he's a good receiver when he was in Atlanta. He didn't put up the average stats, but I don't think anybody's going to deny that at that time, Tony Gonzalez was probably the best tight end that ever played.
Yeah, right.
Because Gronk was still making his things happen.
I agree with you.
No Gronkowski on that list.
No,
huh?
he's on. 13.
Oh, is he? Okay, thank you.
Oh, God, that would have been really bad.
that would have been egregious.
He and Kelsey were back-to-back 13 and 14.
Yeah.
Maybe a little high for Kelsey, but I don't know. Maybe it's getting hard to argue that the way he continues to produce. So Gronk, I think, without question, is in a pretty good spot.
Kelsey's also the reason that offense works, too. And you know what a big fan Andy Reid is at the tight end.
Huge.
He tells us why the tight end's the most important position in that offense. You've seen him switch out wide receivers like it's nothing. You've seen him switch out running backs like it's nothing.
Seen him switch out left tackles.
Right,
But
like it's nothing.
the two guys he wants to keep are Mahomes and Kelsey.
For 2 years, it was important. But when they paid him too much money, then all of a sudden it wasn't important anymore. But the 2 years they had him, wasn't that the years before they committed the big money to Mahomes?
Yeah, you're probably right.
And then when they had to commit the big money to Holmes, you've got to get that money from somewhere.
Yes, you do.
So goodbye Orlando Brown and goodbye Tyreek Hill.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And that's the way they're going about their business.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. You go to Kansas City as a draft choice, you establish yourself, but you got to get paid elsewhere because they don't have the ability to pay you because of the contracts they give to their superstar players.
We got a thought on the list. You can let us know at 312-332-ESPN. Jesse Rogers in about 30. We're going to do special Wednesday edition McKnight at the Movies at 1:15 since we're off early tomorrow for White Sox baseball. We have an hour show tomorrow.
And we still have to
at
get to
1.
this.
Yeah, we're going to do that next. Yeah, Yurko's got some advice for young Matt. We'll tell you what that's all about coming up next.